Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jeff Stemke, and I'm going to show you how Visual-KnowHow, our new SharePoint Team site replacement, will help you create extraordinary value by supercharging your team collaboration and knowledge management projects. Today's demo should take about 45 minutes, but I will stay online as long as there are questions. All right, so today's webinar consists of 4 parts. The first is a little bit about my technical background and the skills, and why I felt the need to develop Visual-KnowHow. Next is a look at Visual-KnowHow's features, especially the signature feature, the knowledge map. The third part is about a day in the life of a young engineer and how Visual-KnowHow helps her quickly solve problems to get work done. And the last is about how knowledge managers can harness the tools in Visual-KnowHow to help their company create extraordinary value. For those who don't know me, I was Chevron's knowledge strategist for over 25 years. I led a team investigating artificial intelligence in the 80s, before that technology was very mature. We built prototype expert systems, neural networks, and genetic algorithms, but they weren't very robust. In the 90s, quality became critical for businesses. Like many companies, Chevron got involved with benchmarking and best practices. At that time, we were using Lotus Notes to support best practice team collaboration. Until 2000, Chevron's refineries had a team of experts who would travel to our 7 North American refineries to solve problems. When Chevron merged with Texaco in 2001, we added 6 new global refineries. And for some reason, none of the experts wanted to become world travelers. So we had to find a better way to improve communication, improve our processes, and reduce costs. What we did was expand our Lotus Notes tool to give global access to Chevron's best practices. GRKM, as it was called, integrated our best practices in a single system. But the most powerful feature was a Q&A system that allowed over 2,000 managers, engineers, and operators to solve operational and equipment problems quickly by posting questions. Often when a person had asked a question, the next day they'd find 2 or 3 suggestions from their colleagues around the globe. A little later, the refinery managers wanted to find a way to track business value, so we added metrics to the Q&A. We asked the person who posted the question to describe how they solved it and to estimate cost and time savings from the fix. Over the next 10 years, we averaged savings of $15 to $20 million per year. It was a resounding success, and managers and refining staff were elated with the capabilities. In 2007, Chevron switched from Lotus Notes to SharePoint. Back then, SharePoint didn't come close to the capabilities of our notes-based refining system. I retired in 2011 and began my consulting practice. I have still not seen any commercial product that comes close to the GRKM system we built. SharePoint's team site certainly has not changed significantly in the last 10 years. Not only that, when I talk to clients, I keep hearing the #1 complaint among SharePoint users is that it's just too hard to find anything. So with a background like that, it was what led me to incorporate many of our powerful features from Lotus into a next generation team site template we're calling Visual-KnowHow for SharePoint. So that is what we're going to talk about today. First of all, let's bring on the Visual-KnowHow. Let me share my screen. Okay, you should be seeing the homepage on the Visual-KnowHow site. Here's what we're going to cover today. I will show you how a clickable knowledge map finds relevant content or experts to help solve problems in one click. How visualizing the way an expert thinks can accelerate competency of newer employees. I'll show you how you can capture business value to gain and sustain leadership support. I think we know that the lack of documented value has killed many knowledge management projects. It is also one way of reinforcing behaviors of sharing and reuse. We'll also see easy-to-use forms for a powerful Q&A forum, also best practices, lessons learned, and more, including a responsive design that works on tablets and smartphones. I'll show you how you can build a corporate employee skills database with my sites. And basically all of this is in a supercharged replacement for the out-of-the-box team site, easily set up without IT support that works in all SharePoint's environments. Let's take a look at the signature feature, the knowledge map. This demo is based on a chemical process for converting natural gas to liquid fuel, the so-called GTL process. I'm betting that most of you don't know much about that. I want you to feel firsthand how Visual-KnowHow helps new employees learn while guiding them to the information they need to get their work done. The map itself is a simple graphic file with hotspots for each of the objects. You already have quite a few of these kinds of diagrams in your organization, so the map itself isn't going to be a big challenge. How did I build this particular knowledge map? I interviewed an engineer about the gas to liquids process that he managed. We identified key terms, which became the metadata for the process. And identifying metadata is typically the first step you take when you design a new SharePoint site. Instead of creating nested folders, we organize the metadata into a concept map, which can be created with tools like Visio or PowerPoint. Basically, we captured the engineer's mental model, the way he or she thinks about the process. The map is a hierarchical organization of all the metadata on a single page. You can see topics with bold font like process control, product distribution, for example. The smaller objects around them, like the different types of reactors or types of feedstocks, represent subcategories in the hierarchy. And the arrows that connect them actually have a meaning. For instance, process control affects product distribution, or biofuels is a feedstock. So you can get a kind of a comprehensive look at the components and how they tie together into the bigger system. You see every keyword at one time. It's as if I took all the folders in a normal document library and spread them out on the table so you could see all the names at one time. It's a lot easier than trying to dig through all those folders to find relevant information. And then each of these objects was, we made them into a hotspot. I used Dreamweaver for that. On the quick launch side, you can see the different kinds of content in the system. We had questions and answers, expertise lists, document libraries, lessons learned, meetings, and a few other lists or libraries. We'll also talk about members in a little while because that's an important issue. So let's just see what happens. I'm going to click a hotspot to show you. So let's just see, we want to know something about economics of the plant. So if I click the hotspot, I get very quickly a results page that finds all of the information in the site that's been tagged with the keyword economics. You can see in this right side list type column, we're getting information in one search, one find operation from all of the lists: expertise, documents, member profiles, lessons learned. We're not having to go into each source at once. We're getting them all at the same time. You also see a very important return, which is the members. When you can't find information you need, or you need it quickly, it's really important to be able to have someone you can contact to get quick help. And so members are included in all of the results you get from the knowledge map. The view itself is a very compact way of organizing the content to make it easy to scroll through and find information more quickly. So basically, my first claim is you can find relevant information or people to answer questions in one click. And that's how we do it. No frustration looking through folders, no cumbersome searches. Any questions about? Okay, if you do have a question, please post it on the chat window and we'll make sure we get an answer for that. All right, let's take a look at visual know-how from the perspective of a young engineer. Let's imagine that you are that young engineer diagnosing a plant problem. There's too much gas in your product. Conventional thinking would be maybe, so what list or subfolder should I look in? What should I search for? Too much gas? Here's how visual know-how helps you end this dilemma. So let's go back to the map. And I'm going to look at the keywords and see if they can help me. So I'm the engineer. I look around here. So too much gas, something about the product. Okay, so product distribution is a likely starting place. What affects product distribution? That's where the concept map comes in, because it helps me figure out what other areas am I looking for. For instance, the reactors involved in the product distribution, separation process over here is a way of creating product distribution. That actually looks like a promising area. So let's click separation process. Again, we're finding everything in the site that's been tagged by separation. If I look through the titles here, troubleshooting gas liquid separators, that looks like a likely source. Let's click that and see what we get. So this comes with a list item that basically turns out to be the troubleshooting guide for separators. You can see, typical kinds of list items with graphics and so forth built in. This is exactly what the engineer needed to solve her problem. I'll show you later when we actually build an example item where fields for the economics, the business value come in, and the keywords and so forth. But again, found the solution in one click. Perfect. All right, let us close this. And let's go back to the map for a minute. So what I like to say is the best search is no search. Our system finds the information you need in one click. The concept map also adds a lot of value because it's almost like having an expert coach you to find a solution. helping this young engineer, for instance, narrow in on focus areas to find content to help solve her problems. This is the kind of thing that helps accelerate time to competency, when you can learn quickly the relationships between concepts and use information to solve your problems very quickly. But of course, no system contains everything, so later in the day, our engineer runs into another problem. This time, there's too much liquid in the gas stream. So let's say she looked around through the knowledge map but couldn't find a solution. So it's time for her to ask a question. So let's go to the Q&A list and create a new item. Visual-KnowHow has a state-of-the-art Q&A capability. This is not your grandfather's discussion list. So let's see. What you're seeing, first of all, is a very efficient, compact form. It's not the normal SharePoint form. You can actually, in our system, stylize it, you changing some CSS code. So you can change colors, and I tried to make it a little fancy here. Let's go ahead. I'm going to say my problem is too much liquid. I'm not going to type very much here, so I'm just going to add a few details. That's why I'm not going to type very much. So basic stuff in terms of the title and the details describing your problem. Later, after the problem is solved, this solution box will be filled in, but we don't have a solution yet. The next thing is the tagging, the metadata. This is one of those things that people really hate to do, but we've made it very easy. We're using cascading menus. So for example, these were the main categories on our knowledge map. Let's just pick one, for example. When you've picked one, the subcategories that show up are only related to the main category you've clicked. So it's very efficient for narrowing down, not having to scroll through lots of different lists. There's also flexibility in that you can add other terms that may be related to your problem, so you can tag it fully. We know that people don't want to take too many clicks to fill in the metadata, but what you're seeing here is a process that takes only a few seconds. And in fact, if you're really lazy, all you need to do is pick the main category. Everything else is extra. But it's important, because if you add a few relevant keywords, it's going to help you find this information later when you're using the knowledge map. You also see here's where we fill in fields for the value, and if you have attachments, of course, that's built in. So let's submit it. And let's pretend, well, they don't have to pretend. I'm an engineer in the plant, and I'm subscribing to this Q&A forum, and I see this problem has been submitted. So I have an idea, so I'm just going to give my answer. All I have to do is fill in the details, and we're done. In fact, no metadata is required because it's inherited from the question. So when you're done, you see everything in context. You see the question, you see any of the answers that have been posted. And if you go back to the map and we look under separation again, which was the main category we chose, you'll see too much liquid and my answer are immediately integrated into the map. So there's no time delay there. Let me show you something that's a little more robust. So let's go into the Q&A and take a look at something that has had a little bit of a conversation around it. So again, we have the original question post. We see there's 3 or 4 answers this time. The delay is nice, or the display is nice because you can include the graphics as well. In this particular problem, it turned out that the third item about Catalyst was the issue that solved the engineer's problem. So what she did or would have done is describe how the problem was solved in the solution category, and then went back and said, okay, this saved us about $50,000 in lost product opportunity, and saved us about a week to get that answer quickly. So you can see the cycle and how the questioner completes that. I also mentioned in one of the features is the responsive design. So let's take a look at that example again. Let me scroll it down. And what that means is, as you shrink your screen from desktop to laptop or tablet, keep going, I can go to one more to the smartphone. It's all responsive, so it all corresponds and gives you the presentation that your users need. If I go back to the tablet, if you have a little more width, you can actually see things like the graphics here. But if I go back, let's go back to the tablet or the smartphone one. Let's look at that answer. It all shows up very nicely. So the responsiveness is a key requirement. All right, so let's open ourselves back. And there's a couple things that I didn't show you. There's a couple other forms. Lessons learned is a particularly frequently used one in the knowledge management world, but it's also important for project teams. And the form here is just a little more complicated. So it has fields like the contact, who knows about it, what was supposed to happen, what actually happened, why was there a difference, and what did we learn to do better next time. So that's a traditional lessons learned format. The member profile is also really critical. If I edit myself here, you'll see that I've taken from a list our expertise, all of our categories. I've just picked categories relative to the gas to liquid process that I know something about. And this is how my profile is added to the find list when we use the knowledge map. Okay, so let's cancel that for a minute. So that kind of takes you through the day in the life of an engineer, how they can use Visual-KnowHow to find information to solve their problems. They can offer their ideas, things they've learned. Even younger employees may have learned something of value to solve problems. And it also helps you accelerate competency through this ability to look at the big picture and see how things are related, which normally takes years of practice. Any questions? Okay, well, if you got them, post them. So we saw how the Visual-KnowHow helped employees. Let's take a look at the knowledge manager's perspective and what kind of tools that we have to offer here. We've already said that business value metrics are critical for any project, and you've seen how Visual-KnowHow captures the metrics. We've used time savings and cost savings in this demo, but those can be customized to business metrics relevant in your organization. So how do we report the business value? Let's look at the metrics page. So we have metrics organized in some different categories. Let's take a look at metrics by category. First thing you'll see is at the top, the running total of total cost saved and total time saved so far this year. And then you'll see the breakdown based on the process element. So we were looking for process control. We can see the kind of issues that have been going on and estimates of the time savings and cost savings in those areas. From a knowledge manager's perspective, this kind of information is really important because it can lead you to think of, are there some problems in the plant that we really need to look at, or do we need to improve some training because people are having problems controlling things effectively? So a knowledge manager not only can report the business value, but look for opportunities to improve the relevant work that's done. If I look, let me go back to metrics and do it by person. So here we can see what individuals have contributed. So for example, Charlie has reported savings in four areas, and you can kind of get a value reading. Here's Charlie's making some valuable contributions to our organization. So not only does this help him in his next promotion, but it also reinforces the sharing behavior. If people can see what value you're adding, that really encourages people to share more. In addition to the business value, we're also tracking metrics of contributions. So we can look at, for instance, the contributions by people. Let's take a look at Kent and just see, here's 19 or so things that Kent has submitted. Again, another way of showing your contributions. And also, this is the kind of data you need when you're getting ready for your annual review. So it's a good tool to be able to have. We also can look at who's looking at what are the views here. So we can look and we can see all the items that have been submitted sorted by the total views. So we can see what's popular, what are people reading about, or again, from a knowledge manager's perspective, is there something going on in this area that we need to be investigating for improvements, some hot issues that need attention. Let me talk a little bit about peer recognition. I'm going to show you something in a minute, but in projects like these, collaboration and knowledge management, motivating behavior to share is a big challenge. One of the strongest behavior motivators is called generalized reciprocity. Normally, reciprocity refers to the situation where you do something and you expect something back. Generalized reciprocity is giving without expecting an immediate return. So, for example, if I answer this question, I'm thinking, maybe someone else will answer one of mine later. Peer recognition is one of the strongest behavior motivators, much more than financial rewards. Let's take a look at just an example, peer recognition. In this case, Charlie shouted out to Kent. He was having a problem, and he describes the problem here and how Kent had a solution that really helped him and what the actual value was to his organization. This kind of thing showcased for the members and the managers is a powerful way to encourage collaboration. So that's another thing the knowledge manager should be doing, is looking for these kinds of stories and encouraging them to be promoted. Have any of you ever tried to develop an employee expertise directory? Well, I have when I was at Chevron after our merger. The biggest challenge we had was getting people to keep their skills up to date. We had to argue what skills were, but besides that, it wasn't too hard to get them to initially fill out a profile, but after that, they didn't have time for it. But they are more likely to share their skills in the context of their community or a project team or a department, because they all need to rely on each other to get the work done. If you're thinking about this, or maybe you've tried other things, I'm going to show you a low-cost solution that involves your SharePoint My Site. So let me look at my skill a minute. Let's look at what I've got. So again, you can see the skills that I have. Keep in mind two things. One is I'm a Catalyst expert. Number two is I have not updated my profile about biofuel. I actually learned something about biofuel. So let me go to my site. So everybody in SharePoint has a profile. In my site, one of those things is a skills and expertise list. And you can see a number of skills that I have. They could be from several different contexts. So here's where you see Catalyst. Here's where you don't see biofuel. So I have not added biofuel to my list. So let's go back to my profile. And let me add biofuel. There it is. So I want to add that. All right. I'm going to go ahead and save. Let's go back to my site. See if this worked. Biofuel. By helping my team out about my expertise, my profile has been automatically updated. Woo! That's a time saver. And how do we actually use that? I think if you're a SharePoint user, you know there's different kinds of searches. One of those is people. And I can search for Catalyst, for instance. And it'll come back with experts who have in their My Site profile the skill Catalyst. So it's a real simple way. It's cool. When I figured out how to do this, I was quite happy. So let me summarize where we've gone today. Visual-KnowHow is packaged as a SharePoint site template with all the features you saw today. All the lists and so forth were wired together. The only thing you need to add is your metadata and a map. It's a supercharged replacement for the out-of-the-box team site. All you need to do is fill in a few lists with your metadata, so it doesn't take any IT support. And the map itself is really pretty easy to do.